So have you ever thought, hey, I like this disc, but how can I find something maybe a little faster or maybe something that's a little bit smaller in my hand? Stick around and I'm going to show you guys how you can look at disc specifications on how to find those discs that you're looking for. All right, so this is going to be a little bit of a different video, and I found out that not a lot of people do a good job, or at least haven't explained how you can look at the PDGA specifications on their website, look at a disc and say, hey, how is this disc different from this disc? And how can we find something I'm looking for? So I'm over here on infinitedisc.com, and there I have a great description of different parts of a disc that we need to kind of define real quick, and then we can take a look at how we can use the PDGA's website to find the specifications for the information of the disc that we are looking for. So there's 5 different terms and things we're going to have to look at, and I will have to admit that 2 of the terms on here are a little bit different named on the PDGA's website, and we'll go over that in a minute. But the 5 different things we need to take a look at is the disc diameter, which is the total top. It doesn't really matter to us too much about what that is, but it's good to know what that means. It's from the whole top plate. Then we have the disc height, and that is the top of the disc to the bottom of the disc if you sat it on a flat surface. All right. Then we have the rim width, which is the wing of the disc to the bottom rim, and then we have the rim height. Now those are the 2 names that are going to be different on the PDGA's website, and we'll go over that in a second. These are all a nice descriptive terms about what is the average for those areas of the disc for different discs, for distance drivers, fairway drivers, mid-ranges, and putters. So we are going to take a look at the Destroyer for today. That is a disc that a lot of people know about. So let's take a look at the specifications of the Destroyer, and we're also going to compare it to a new driver that just came out, which is another 12-speed, which is the Time-Lapse. So let's just take a look real quick and just take a look at these numbers, and then we'll have them side by side and compare the 2. So here we have the max weight of the disc that has been tested. We have the diameter of the disc, which is the top plate, like we said. Then we've got the height of the disc, the rim depth, which is the inside, the rim height. All right, that's what it said on the other descriptive, or on the other website of Infinite, but that's the rim depth. Then we have the thickness, which is, you would say, the inside part here. That is the thickness of the rim. Then you have inside rim diameter, not too important to us. And then you have the rim depth to diameter ratio, not really important to us, but they're there. And one more thing that we need to know is the rim configuration. And this is the one that's really confusing, but all you generally need to know is while looking at different distance drivers, or any disc in that matter, the lower number is going to be the little bit more of a sharper rim to it. All right, so we're going to be taking a look at those numbers in specific to each other to kind of compare how we can find different discs that might find our liking. All right, so let's do this. Let me pull the time lapse and let me get it side by side. There we go. All right, so let's take a look at these 2 here. So we've got the Destroyer on the left, and we've got, let me see if I can get these, and then we have the time lapse over here. And so let's take a look and kind of compare the numbers, because we both know that both are 12 speeds. All right. Now, generally, when I see rim thickness, the thickness of the disc makes me think about the speed of the disc. All right. So let's just take a look at that right off the bat. And if we look at the rim thickness of the Destroyer, it's a 2.2, and the rim thickness of a time lapse is 2.3. So the time lapse, same speed, but the rim thickness of the time lapse is a little bit thicker. And if I pull this up real quick over here, it says on the rim, what we would call the width or the thickness, it says generally the PGA has set a rim thickness of no more than 2.5, which we would know that to be maybe a 14, 15 speed driver. And so on average, distance drivers right here is 2.11 centimeters. So if you look at the Destroyer, 2.2, so a little above average, so we know it's a little bit faster. Think about it, the distance drivers range from about 10 to 14. So if 12 speeds right in the middle, so 2.2, but the time lapse is a little bit thicker, so maybe it's a little bit faster of a disc Well, let's take a look at some more numbers, and let's start from the top down. So we're going to skip max weight and we're going to skip diameter. I can't get these two to line up perfectly, sorry. But let's look at the height. The height of the disc, most of us know that a domier of a disc gives it a little bit more glide and also makes it a little bit more stable and doesn't allow the disc to do more of a turning action when it's thrown. So when this got first released, the Destroyer, or got first approved in 2007, the height of this was a 1.4. All right. And so if we look at the time lapse, we have known through Simon's videos that the time lapse has a little bit more dome than most of the distance drivers because that's what he likes. So the height is a 1.7, so it's significantly domier than the Destroyer. So keep that in mind too. So domier makes it glide a little bit more, but makes it a little bit more stable though. So it could slow the disc down a little bit. And we've already looked at the rim thickness and seen that the thickness is a little bit more, which might make it a little bit faster than a Destroyer. So you can kind of see how companies balance things out with maybe if a rim thickness is a little bit more than another distance driver, maybe they make it a little bit more domey, or they have a different change in their specifications to their disc to match the speed. So let's keep going down the list here. So we already talked about rim thickness, but let's look at rim depth. Same thing. Rim depth is that bottom portion of the disc where you kind of right here, where you would put your hand. So that is the rim depth. So the rim depth is exactly the same as the Destroyer. So that's kind of interesting how they MVP did that, because if they want people to feel their 12 speed, which everyone goes for a Destroyer, generally speaking, starting off when they're looking for a 12 speed, a distance driver is the Destroyer is like the standard. And we know the flight numbers are exactly the same between the Destroyer and a time-lapse, that they chose to have the exact same feeling of the rim depth. And that's usually the first thing that main people feel when they feel a disc. Usually it's the depth and the thickness of the rim. So we already know the thickness is a little bit more on the time-lapse. And if we scoot down to rim configuration, this is the big part to be thinking about here. The rim configuration on a Destroyer is a 30.5, and on the time-lapse it's a 26.25, which, if you guys didn't know, that's actually a pretty significant difference. Just for fun, if we pull up the, let me see if I can pull up the Wraith. We can kind of look at the rim configuration on that one, right? And that is the rim like sharpness. If you look at a Wraith, it's actually saying that it is it's a sharper than a Destroyer, which is very fascinating to see. So you can kind of play around and take a look at the rim configuration of different discs to see how that changes. So we've already said the height of the time-lapse is significantly more than Destroyer, which probably slows it down, but the rim thickness was a hair more. But the biggest thing, in my opinion, is saying the reason why the time-lapse is so fast is probably because of the rim configuration. Sharper edge, faster out of the hand, but then everything else will play in the part with how it can continue its flight with the rim thickness and the rim depth as well. So just thought I wanted to share that with you guys and show you two popular molds right now, or at least time-lapse who just got released, compared to an OG of where everyone compares their distance driver to, which is the Destroyer. But I want to show you one more example before I'm done here. I'm going to pull this guy over here. See if I can get this. There we go. And the two I'm going to show you is the Grace from Latitude 64 and the Enigma from Discmania. And this is a personal example for me. Before I knew anything about the specification numbers and all that stuff and how to look at this, I played with the Grace exclusively for about maybe 8 or 9 months. And I really liked it. It was great, but I felt like I was ready for a faster disc for my arm speed personally. And also because I like the forehand, so I wanted something that go a little bit further and not be as floaty on me. So I started playing around with just feeling other discs, and I got my hands on an Enigma, and I eerily thought it felt exactly like a Grace, and I couldn't understand how it could be different. Well, lo and behold, I came onto PDGA's website, and this is what started my journey through disc specifications, was this scenario. So if you guys take a look here, you got the Grace on the left, and we have the Enigma on the right. They are identical numbers down, right? Max weight, diameter, height, rim depth, rim thickness, inside the rim diameter, rim depth to diameter ratio. The only big difference is the rim configuration, which is the sharpness of the edge of the disc, or the nose of the disc. So the Enigma is a little bit sharper because it's a lower number than the Grace. So if you gave me a Grace and I felt it, I could tell the sharpness of the edge. But everything else would feel the same. The thickness, the depth. I could even feel a height be very similar in that sense. So the one thing I will say, though, is if you do something like this, you can't just say, oh, the Enigma's faster, it'll go further, it'll fly exactly the same. Not true. Everything is super sensitive when it comes to changing a disc, even to the very like millimeter or 0.1 of a centimeter. And same with the rim configuration with the sharpness. The thing about the Enigma that just flies different, and this is not important, but I want to explain to you why just a small change makes a big difference, is that the Enigma is faster out of the hand, absolutely, which means that it wants to do what the turn is of the disc a lot earlier because it's going faster. So in my opinion, the Enigma likes to turn a little bit more than the Grace, and so which means is that it's not as forgiving as a throw. So if you throw with a little anhyzer, it's going to get out of the hand, it's going to want to do the turn a lot faster, and you could lose it on an anhyzer to the right if you're throwing it on the right hand backhand than if you're doing a Grace, because a Grace is a little bit slower and it can't get to that speed as fast to do that turn. So the Grace is more forgiving in that aspect. So I wanted to share that as well, so you guys could see if you're looking for something that's a little bit different. It doesn't have to be a distance driver. It could be a fairway driver, it could be a mid-range. You can find something a little bit different. Now I'm just going to show you one more thing. So we have the Enigma over here, and we got the rim configuration of a 27.7. Just for fun, let's pull up the glitch, because we know that's like a blunt edge. And so if you take a look at the rim configuration here, it's a 66.5 compared to a 27.75. And just for fun, we'll pull up the Berg, and we'll compare the Berg to the glitch. So the Berg, this is even more. Sorry, I can't get it to line up right. The Berg is 87 on the rim configurations to the glitch, which is a 66.5. Now, they're obviously not the same disc, but they're very widely popular for their differences. One has like no glide pretty much, and the other one has a ton of glide, and you can kind of compare the two to see how they might glide a little bit differently. You can't see much of a difference, but I think the biggest difference that it really could show you is that the rim configuration can make a big difference on how the disc can react, right? We're seeing like a 20-point difference between the two, which is probably why this disc has such a lower glide than the glitch as well. So just thought that'd be fun to show you guys. And I think it's really important to understand the disc specifications on that way when a new disc comes out, you can compare it to something you already have, and you can say, man, do I really want to even buy or try this disc? Because a lot of times we get it because it's new, we want to try it, and then we start feeling it and we don't like the feel, we don't like it, and then sometimes it can feel like it's a little bit of a waste of a buy. But if you're really looking for something that you might be able to use and choose in the future, come here when the disc gets approved and you can take a look at it right away, and you can kind of compare about, man, is this something that I would like to possibly use, right? So Innova's got some new discs coming out. You also can take a look at Discmania's PD2 model and compare it to like a Nuke OS, if you have a Nuke OS, which is what I have right now, to see how is it going to feel different, how you can look at the numbers to see how it might even fly different if you have that experience now. But something really important for you guys to learn is looking at these numbers, seeing how you can use it to help your game and to help you really make a purchase down the road. So really would appreciate if you guys would like the video. That way other people can kind of learn from this and also really use this to their advantage. Leave a comment down below about maybe how you're still really confused about this, or if this was really helpful, or also about how you might have had a situation where you might be able to do the same thing I did, where you went to this website, you used it to help find disc. Would love to hear back from you guys. Subscribe to the channel. Got more content like this coming out in the future. And thank you so much for watching. See you guys in the next one.